to present Overcoming a World That Distracts. Christina is the owner and master trainer of Puget Sound detection dogs and has trained hundreds of canines for work in detection. She's a certified nosework instructor, a certifying official, and a trial judge. And a little snippet of fun information that she was a judge at the first national NACSW trial in 2013. And she also instructed at the very first canine nosework camp in the Pacific Northwest. I want to give you some, I'll pass it over to Christina. Welcome.
Thank you. And good morning, everybody. I had a lot of fun coming up with this webinar. I kind of have a passion for it because I think about it in this way, that if you're just doing it for enrichment, then it doesn't really matter if the dog is playing their own game instead of playing nose work with you. But a lot of us like to compete. And if we're going to compete or even attend classes where there's a little bit of healthy competition between students, we want our dogs to be playing the game that we are engaged in at the time, right? We don't want them to be doing their own thing. It's kind of like going out to lunch with a friend. You invited the friend out. The friend said, yes, they wanted to come. You didn't coerce them. You didn't force them. And then you're sitting there at the table and your friend just can't put their phone down. That to me is not playing the game. They're engaged in their own activity, and you could have stayed home and they could have stayed home and it would have been a lot cheaper, right? So what we're going to look at today is how distracting the world is and what we can do to assist them in remaining in the game that we're currently playing together. So my objectives for you in this webinar are to gain an understanding of actually what a distraction is, to understand why the dog is distracted, to recognize when your dog is distracted versus playing the game with you, and develop a toolbox to assist the dog to focus back into the game. So, what is a distraction? Everybody is distracted by something. And sometimes what distracts you doesn't distract me at all. It doesn't appeal to me. One example I like to give is when I go to Costco or any of those really, really huge box stores, I am so overwhelmed and distracted by the size, the height of the shelves, the amount of people, the fact that I have to navigate around those massive carts to try and get to the shelf that I'm trying to get to. And I find that extremely distracting. And I don't get in and out of Costco very efficiently. It is a struggle for me. I like to go to smaller stores. I can get in, get out. I like to go to stores that I know where everything's located too. So the first definition of a distraction is a thing that prevents someone from giving full attention to something else. Okay, so we all kind of can relate to that definition. And I want to explore some of the things that do distract the dog and why it would. So I think we can all relate to moving things. And sometimes it's just because dogs don't belong, or sorry, not dogs, people don't belong on wheels. Well, dogs don't belong on wheels either. So a dog on a skateboard would probably be even more distracting. And for some dogs, this is an enticement and an urge to chase, to interact with the object that the human is on. And other dogs, it's scary. They don't understand why the person is up high, why the person is moving fast. And so this whole category, skateboards, bicycles, rollerblades, lawn mowers, dogs riding lawn mowers, push lawn mowers, even the ones that just cut the blade and you have to do all the manpower. Some of those things are just either, again, really, really attractive to a dog, or they can be scary. Wagons with little children in them that are squealing is even more complicated, right? And some dogs, the big cars and trucks, that's just an enticement. Or again, some dogs are afraid of traffic. Then we have shiny things. We have things that flash. We have things that flutter. And this again can be an enticement. It can be something that the dog loves to chase, wants to get a hold of, wants to play with, or it can be something that is scary to them. They have a reactivity to the flashes, things that flap in the wind. And it can be border collies, not to call out a breed, but because they're so full of eye, a border collie can really be affected by the flashing of a light reflecting off of somebody's watch band. Or it could be reflections from a window that could be either inside or outside, right? Things that dangle. Maybe it's a little tag from a chain that's on a fire extinguisher on a wall. It could be something that is as simple as a tarp that's being put up for the line of sight. I was at a trial not too long ago where the wind just came up out of nowhere, and the flapping of the tarp from the inside of the search area was very distracting to a lot of the dogs. And then there's bugs. We all probably know dogs that are attracted to and distracted by flies. Some are attracted or distracted by bees that are buzzing in a bush, or they're just visiting flowers. And for some dogs, it's fearful because they have been stung, or they have been in a car, in a car at maybe a fairgrounds that had animals there, and the flies are still hanging around from the end of the season, and they get into the car, and then the dog is bugged by that fly, and they remember that, right? Then leaves blowing. I remember when one of my dogs was a puppy, she just loved to chase leaves. So again, that can be extremely enticing and pull them away from the game that they're playing. And then, of course, we've got canine smells. And that is something that probably everybody can relate to one degree or another. And again, you can have enticement. You have dogs whose personalities, this attracts them, and they want to engage with it. They want to smell it. Intact boys want to lick urine to get more of a sense of who that being that left that urine behind is. Feces, sometimes they just get a lot of information. Saliva, that can, especially at a competition, the saliva, if it's the A student, then it is leaving food particle, even if they're minuscule molecular food particles that the dog is using. You've got the saliva that worries dogs because they're wondering if that dog is still around and is going to come and say hi to them. You have dog hair. You have dogs that shed, dogs moving through their space. They're just leaving dog hair behind. And that can be really attractive. And then just the pheromones themselves left behind by the dog that was previously there. Are they happy pheromones? Did the dog enjoy the search and have a great time and so left happy prints behind? Or was the dog less confident and worried? So then it left worried pheromones behind. And so if your dog is a worrier, or if your dog is got some sensitivities, another worried dog can be distracting. It can cause some reactivity. If your dog is sensitive and a dog that had a whole lot of courage and excitement and everything that ran before them, that can cause them to pause as well. And then we have the things that they can put in their mouth or they can roll on or roll in. Balls, stuffies. I have a dog in my clientele that loves rags, and they can be dirty rags. He loves the preschool rugs where the little bottoms sit to hear stories or play with their toys, and he just loves to roll in it. And that handler just chooses to let him do it. It's going to be momentary. He's got to get his yayas out, and then he'll move on. So that's, maybe you can relate to that. Maybe your dog likes the smell of certain things in the classrooms. Sticks. A lot of dogs like to pick sticks up outside and carry them around. Maybe they want to chew on them. Maybe they are either just wanting to play or they're distracted by the smell of an animal that had picked it up before. Worms in grass or just grass in general. Some dogs like to just flop down and give a roll. I know that my dog, Dory, since the time she was a little puppy, has loved to roll in worms, either their little carcasses or their castings. And there's just something about that smell that incites prey roll. Dead things, just in general, dead things in the ground, and whether it's, again, the dead worm or something else like that. But some dogs just love to pay attention to that and can be distracting. I know there was an NW1 years ago where there was a carcass of a raccoon, and it was left in the search area because they wanted it to be obvious that that's what it was. If they had removed it, then the dogs would have been enticed by it, but the handlers wouldn't have known why. So dead things are attractive to a lot of dogs. Okay, free food. And when I say free food, I mean food that has not been put there. It is, obviously it was put there by somebody, but it wasn't purposefully placed as a distractor, right? You've got crumbs, you have leftover food that falls to the grass in an eating area, or if it's at a camp, a picnic area. You might have a food drop from the dog that was rewarded right before you. And you have snacks, sometimes in the teacher's desk or in the cupboard, especially in some of the lower level classrooms. They have snacks for the kids. And at this point, I want to talk briefly about distractors in containers, because I think it's an important differentiation when we're talking about the world that distracts. Distractors are purposefully placed by a human being in containers for the purpose of challenging you with, does your dog know odor, and will stick with odor and ignore the purposefully placed distractors. And they are put there by a human. And unlike all the thousands of other odors that are out there in the world that we're exploring right now, these can be systematically trained. You can teach your dog that if it was put in a container by a human and you're wearing your outfit for the game, then it's not going to pay. It's just never going to pay if you pay attention to a distractor. So you might as well just go to the odor and tell me about it, right? Okay, so on to other distractors. Just the great outdoors. For some dogs, just being out there is a distraction alone, or for others, it's scary. It's scary to be out there in the wide open world. You've got critters out there, and it's all types, the ones that fly, crawl, swim, climb, all of the above. And things in the distance. There's certain breeds, like I have a sighthound, a Basenji, who the close up things are not as distracting to him as the things that are far away. And some of the more aggro breeds, like the Dutch Shepherds and the German Shepherd dogs, can be the same way. When they see something far away, that's something that they need to pay attention to. There's people, if you have an exterior or your vehicles, you've got volunteers standing around. So the people that are up close could be distracting to a dog. And for some dogs, those people don't belong there. It's outdoors. So I'm supposed to see trees and grass and bushes. Okay? And some dogs associate, I should say, a lot of dogs associate being outdoors with running free and recreating. They get their free time to sniff whatever they want to sniff. They get to chase balls, chase birds, chase bunnies, and it's not a time to find odor that is targeted unless we teach them the difference between running free and working with us. And then we have wide open spaces in the interiors. Okay, we have high ceilings. In this picture, you can see the high ceilings. This is like Costco for me, all right? You've got the big windows. You have echoes in the big, large rooms like this that don't have as much insulation, and they have all those windows. You can have a lot of echoey sounds. You've got the shiny floors. You've got the tall shelves. And again, if you are in a competition or class, you can have people in there. You can have your timer, you can have your steward, you've got the judge, and your if someone's taking pictures or all that stuff. So just looking at it from the dog's perspective, this could be fun. It's a big, wide open space for some confident dogs, but it could also be unnerving for some dogs that are not used to it. Okay, then we have distraction definition number 2, which is extreme agitation of the mind or emotions. Some people, like some dogs, like some people, just have a lot going on in their heads, right? It's just the world alone can be distracting because there's so many things to think about. And I don't think dogs are unlike us. If the dog is less confident, less resilient, they can have a lot of concerns. If I'm anthropomorphizing, they come into their search and they're worried about the space. They're worried about the people. They're worried about the expectations of their human. So they've got a lot going on in their head. And then some have phobias, and that's rational or irrational fears. And who gets to decide whether it's rational or irrational, right? I've been told that even those of us that have irrational fears, we believe that they're real. And so it's just having that thought process that, maybe my dog is distracted by something that isn't tangible for me. For some dogs, it's crowds. And this is an extreme picture. We don't usually have to deal with quite that many people in our classes or our competitions, but to the dog, I thought it was a good representation. This is maybe how some dogs feel when they walk into an area that only has 5 people. It's just a lot to take in. Then you have loud noises. And I put it under the distraction of the mind or emotions because I think a lot of these don't only provide distraction away from what the dog is trying to do, but they have an emotional basis to them. Slamming of doors, mechanical noises, especially those that the dog can't see the origin of it. They don't know where it's coming from. So it can be very disturbing to them emotionally. Gunfire, there've been plenty of trials that I've been at where it's not right there at your trial site, but in the distance, there's a gun range. So you can hear the gunfire. Parades, I have seen videos where someone's doing their exterior, and on the street right outside of their exterior, there was a parade going on. So you've got drums, you've got horned instruments, you've got all that going on. And for some dogs, again, it's not just the distraction of the sound in their ear, but it's the emotions behind it. Maybe it's not fireworks, but for some dogs, if they are afraid of fireworks and they hear a sound, it could have that emotional trigger for them, right? Bouncing of basketballs. Sometimes schools have their photo shoots for their basketball players, and the little boys don't know they're not supposed to be dribbling the ball while they're going down the hall to get to their photo shoot. So you've got that. And sudden onset of barking. In a little while, we'll see a video where that happens. And so all these things are just emotional or mentally based, as well as they could be an actual distraction. And then I think it's important that we don't forget our influence, that we act weird, we smell weird, even if we're a pretty cool Joe or Jane, we still have pheromones that differ when we are excited. Okay, call it excited instead of nervous. You're just excited because this is going to be a fun day and you're going to compete with your dog. That still smells different than you do most likely in class, where you're more content and comfortable, right? It's familiar. And so we do things sometimes in competitions that we don't do in our normal practices. We might say things, we might pull on the leash more, we might not call our alerts, and all those things, if your dog is used to you acting a certain way and there's not enough resiliency built up in the dog for competition, then these things can really affect them. So I just put some thoughts here. I'm not sure that dogs think that way, but I think my little Basenji does sometimes. He's wondering if the end of the world is near, and he also wonders if he'll ever eat again. And Dory probably says, I just want my ball. And the extreme is, oh my goodness, we're all going to die. Right? So there was recently a study that was done, and they were testing the effects of unfamiliar, stressed, and relaxed odor from humans on the dog. Okay? And in yellow, you can see the conclusion in a sentence or two. If odor from stressed humans affects a dog's emotional state, perception of rewards, or ability to learn, it suggests that stress may now not just travel down the leash, as is often stated, but also through the air. These findings highlight the need to consider dogs' training and working environments from their olfaction perspective. So I found that study fascinating. It kind of confirms what a lot of us have known for a long time. And sometimes it's comforting to see that science is catching up. Okay, so this is a video. We're going to watch it in its entirety because I want you to pay attention to, if you can, all of the ways that Gidget is distracted. She's distracted, in my observation, and you can confirm or deny and see if you can find them too, that she's auditorily distracted, She's visually distracted. She's distracted through her olfaction system and her emotions. All right, so let's watch Rosanna and Gidget do their exterior. And Rosanna's done a really nice job with this video. She points out where all 3 hides are. So there you have it. So Gidget goes right by the first one, but now she's coming back. She was distracted by something that smelled good on the ground. Then she shows us the locations again. We're interested in something on the ground again. Okay, so she's right at a location and she sees something. Now we're distracted by smell. We're still distracted by a smell. We go right past another, there's a shake off. Okay. And from her perspective, you can see there's people, it's a pretty wide open space. We're at hide location. There just wasn't enough there for Rosanna to call it because Gidget is so distracted, right? So it makes it a lot more difficult for us as handlers to call it when our dogs are distracted. She sees something again. Then we're sniffing.
Alert? Yes.
And then she has the wherewithal to be able to communicate with her handler. And I think we're probably about a minute and a half, 2 minutes into the search. We found one hide. Rosanna does a great job. You heard the kissing noises when she redirected her from whatever she was interested in the bottom of the screen.
30 seconds.
Still lots of sniffing on the ground. Visual, you can see when she goes visual because her ears go way up on the top of her head. We're going to get another alert. There we go. Hey, so we had a lot going on there as a great video, and Rosanna does a great job with Gidget, and they find all 3 hides. So it isn't that your dog's distracted. Dogs are animals, and there are things that are going to vie for their attention. And it's that you notice that they're distracted. And notice I highlighted this, do or don't do something about it. It's going to be your choice as a handler, whether you want to change that or if you're just going to want to wait it out. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is be able to recognize when your dog is distracted versus playing the game with you. There's a concept of 10,000 observational hours. It's not necessarily a literal 10,000. That's fantastic if you have that many hours put into it. It was a concept that Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, explored. It's a practice of deliberate and focused observation to achieve a level of mastery. That's what we're talking about when I say that you want to observe, you want to video, you want to take the time to really observe over and over and over again, whether your dog is playing the game or whether they are distracted, right? So you want the video to focus on recreating the sniffing of all the things that distract your dog. And if you can pull those apart and have a video of them crittering. And when I say crittering, I mean wildlife for the most part. A squirrel that was at the bottom of a tree and left his little squirrel stank down there and then climbed up the tree. Or your dog noticed the squirrel, it ran away, it doesn't get to chase it, so now it's smelling the little squirrel stank it left behind. Then pulling out where your dog is sniffing the urine of another dog, or where it is sniffing saliva. And these can be 10-second clips. They don't have to be long. They don't have to be a whole search. I would recommend that you take a lot of video where they're not even searching, that they're just walking along and they stop on their own for whatever reason and they start sniffing. And it's better if you know what it is that they're sniffing so that you can kind of catalog it, so that you can watch it over and over and over again. And take videos of when they're listening to something, when they're looking at something, because all those behaviors are different than when they're searching. The videos focus on them actually searching. So these again can be short clips if you have somebody videoing all of your runs, and then you can edit them, or you can pay attention to what time those happened and just focus on those. I think it's important that we see them almost side by side. I see a video of my dog sniffing a bush where a dog peed. Then I see my dog searching for odor in the same type of environment. So I can tell myself this one is distracted sniffing because there's urine there. There's no animation going on. My dog's just standing there. The only thing that's moving is the tip of his nose. Then I can look at a video where he is actively searching and how there is animation, how the whole body's moving, and then just the head, and then just the tip of the nose comes to a rest, and boom, they find their target odor. And when we watch it over and over and over again and really study it, you'll be able to train your eye so that when you see it in an unknown situation where you don't know where the hide is located, you'll be able to say to yourself, my dog's distracted. And then you can decide what you want to do about it, right? And these should be short and close up. You want to really focus on the dog up close. I saw this quote in a DMV one time, and I think that it really struck me as pertinent to a lot of things in our lives. And it's that others can explain it to you, but they can't understand it for you. So your instructor, your fellow student, your fellow competitor, all of those people can say to you, did you see when your dog was just sniffing? Did you see when your dog was licking that place on the ground? Their tail was flat. They weren't showing any animation or interest in involving you in it in any way, shape, or form. But until you see that for yourself over and over and over again with purpose of focused learning, it's not going to be easy for you and you're not going to necessarily understand it. So I think it's really important that we just take the time to observe. Okay, so sorry for his little bottom there. It just was the way that I was angled when I took the video. This is just a real short clip of Griffin just doing distracted sniffing. And you can see that the only thing that's really moving is the tip of his nose. And he's really focused in on that. He doesn't do anything to communicate with me. When I ended it, he was getting ready to walk away. This is another one where he's just standing there sniffing. See, totally still. And then he's not interested anymore. He walks away. There's absolutely no animation in his body in either one of those videos. Okay. Then here is a little video of him. He's on paired hides. So you're not going to see him look at me. You're going to see him eat the cookie off the hide. But what I want you to pay attention to is that even though he's in the same sort of situation where there's greenery, there's grass, there's leaves, there's bushes, things that male dogs love to sniff and pee on, he doesn't do that. So here he is. He's in it's a parking lot, but there was parking medians there, and so I took advantage of the fact that a lot of people walk their dogs there and let them pee. So you can see he's near the bushes, but his nose is moving. His body's moving. He is sniffing with purpose, and then he finds his little hide and he eats his cookie. And then here's another one. And this, I upped the ante just a little bit because there's a little tree in the area. Still in the parking lot. But to get to his hide, he has to go to the greenery and the little tree. He's going to find a couple little plastic containers on the floor. Okay, so he's up in the greenery, and you can see how his head is up, his nose is moving, and you can see the little brown pin is through the greenery. There's a little tree there and everything, and he gets his paired hide.
So the videos were a little bit choppy, but I think people able to see. Yeah.
Well, hopefully not all of them will be choppy.
Right.
Hopefully you got the gist of it. It's just close up, really short. None of those videos were more than a minute at the most in length. And it's just so that if I wanted to, then I could go back and I could study it over and over and over again to see the differences. Could even put an ethogram together, which is a list of behaviors. So I might want to focus on his cadence, whether he increases or decreases his speed. I could put down shoulder carriage, like is he up high on his feet and his shoulders are being carried high, or does he hunker down? I could, maybe not for a Basenji, probably wouldn't include tail, because they don't really use their tail much to indicate animation unless they're seeing their person and are all excited. But I could put a list of behaviors together, and then when I watched my videos, I could pull out the different behaviors I'm seeing and check them off my ethogram. And if you did that through a space of time and you got a graph together, then you would have a articulable change of behavior so that you could tell whether your dog was in target odor or if they were recreating. And there isn't any fast track. You have to just have a lot of observational hours. And the whole crux of it would be that the sooner that you recognize it while your dog is working, I put that in quotation marks, playing the game with you, then the quicker you can decide if you're going to do something and what it would be. Okay, any questions so far?
Nope, no questions. Give them maybe a minute or two. Everybody, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box.
Okay, while you're thinking about your questions. Okay, so you've heard me say a couple times, do or don't do something about it. So how do you decide whether you should try and change their mind? I think it has a lot to do with breed. Certain breeds from the terrier and hound group are not bred to work closely with mankind. So we have to keep that in mind when we are trying to decide whether we're going to try and change their mind, because a terrier is supposed to be tenacious. They're supposed to go after what they want, and they're not supposed to be easily dissuaded from it. That's what they're good at. Hound, the same thing, especially scent hounds and sight hounds fall into that category too. If they are on something, they're not going to be easily dissuaded from it, whether it's scent or sight.
No
Hello.
questions.
Okay. So temperament also has a lot to do with it. And temperament is largely determined by genetics. Okay, I know there's other thoughts out there as well, but largely determined by genetics and personality, which is largely developed through life experiences. You can improve upon environment. Genetics are genetics. They are there from conception to birth. So it has a lot to do with that, whether I would try and change my Basenji's mind and how I would go about doing it. Whereas my Dutch Shepherd is designed to work more closely with me. Sporting breeds are designed and developed to be more closely knitted to mankind to do our bidding. And lifestyle also has a lot to do with it. How does the dog live their daily life? So day-to-day life, I believe it does flow into, or can flow into, searching. How you relate to your dog on a daily basis can impact your relationship while they're searching. And some of my points are, if you walk in squirrel country, you're just taking a walk, and it's really, really difficult. Your dog is pulling on you and lunging forward for the squirrels. Searching in that type of an environment is going to be even tougher. Going to a camp for a trial where there's trees and there's bushes and where squirrels like to hang out, that might be a real challenge. Okay? If they have a lot of free time, you have a lot of acreage, and the dog spends a lot of time running free, and they hunt bunnies and they chase the deer and all of that, sometimes that's going to be harder for them to focus on hunting with a human being. And stimulus control is a big plus for those environments that where the dog has a lot of freedom or is challenged. And stimulus control it's helping them differentiate between what gets them reinforced by you and what doesn't get reinforced by you. So I'm not suggesting that you can in any way, shape, or form stop your dog from ever caring about squirrels or ever caring about those things that entice them. But while they're attached to you in a setting like a competition or class, I believe that's very possible. It has a lot to do with context cues, their outfit that they wear, the things that you say, how you set them up for success in those searches. I know that my dogs, when I'm walking them, they are allowed to look at squirrels. They're allowed to look at cats, but they're not to pull and lunge and endanger me while we're connected. And while they're wearing their search outfit, the game is to find target odor, not to chase squirrels or cats. Okay, so systematic training, going through the distractions in class or lessons, and it's purposeful. You choose what the distraction is going to be for your own dog, okay, based on what distracts your dog. And you want to start with a low level, and you're going to work up to their kryptonite. You don't start with a cat walking through the search area. You don't start with a bunch of teens riding skateboards through your search area if those are your dog's kryptonite. You might start by somebody holding a bag of treats because your dog's not as excited about treats as they are about skateboards. And you just level it up as the dog succeeds. And you don't always make it more difficult. Sometimes you go up and then you bring it down, and then you go up and you bring it down, and then you level it off for a while and let them really soak in the success of being able to overcome the distraction and find their hides. And then you work up eventually to their kryptonite in a very systematic and kind, focused way so that the dog can be successful. It's just like teaching a dog a healing pattern. If you do obedience, you like to heal them longer outside of competition than they'll ever have to heal inside of competition, so that when you have to heal for the 2 minutes in competition, it's easy peasy, right? And if you're doing this systematic training effectively, your dog will hunker into the search and try harder. They're like, that is insignificant. That distractor is insignificant. I'm going to find my odor because it's the only thing that pays. So since we just talked about kryptonite, your secret word is Superman. Superman. Okay, so we achieved this level of distraction that you see in this picture after weeks of training. You have bags of treats out there. You've got toys. You have there's a little dish with the poop bags in it. And there is target odor out there. There's also a stuffed dog, and he's wearing some silly graduate thing on his head. And you are picking a distraction that vies just a little bit for their attention, but they can work through it fairly quickly. So I gave an example of a bag of treats. Maybe it's too much for one dog, so then you just start by standing in the search area. Or maybe a dog is interested in tennis balls, so you don't have a tennis ball on the ground like in this picture, but you have someone just holding a tennis ball. Then maybe you work up to bouncing the ball just up and down in your hand. And then eventually maybe you're bouncing the ball on the ground. And maybe eventually everybody's bouncing a ball. It depends on the dog, but you want to gradually increase the level, and then you want to back off when necessary. And you want to make sure that your helper knows dogs and won't overface your dog, that they know how to quit while they're ahead. Okay, so we're just going to see a couple, hopefully these are not choppy. We're going to watch a couple dogs working through distractions purposefully set up. So this is Sting, and he was a little bit concerned with the stuffed dog, Mr. Lab, but that was not his first exposure to Mr. Lab. He has seen him before. That's a little container that has treats in it. And there he's found his hide. Lots of reward for working through all these distractions. And he's going to have to pass Mr. Lab again. You see he gives him the the look. He's looking at mom like, is this okay? What should I do? And he's wagging his tail. So I'm watching this. I'm okay with this. He goes up to say hi to Mr. Lab. And she tells him he's a good dog. And then he gets back to work. And he's interested in that basket. And then he goes to Target Odor. There you go. And then this is Orla and Margaret.
Yep, same place.
And I said same place because we had already done an exercise, and because I upped the ante of the distractors, I left the hides in the same location. So Orla's interested in a toy that's on the ground, but then she goes to Odor. She's going to just give those a casual sniff, trip over them, go past the squeezy cheese, nail her hide. Okay, so systematically working through those, she got better and better at just ignoring the distractors. Margaret wants to finish the row. Orla's like, there's nothing else. And then this is Tosh. And Tosh just nails it. She cuts across to get to the first hide. Nice alert. She just works right past that dog, doesn't care. Nails her second hide. Okay, so remember that the distraction is determined by the dog, not you. And it's the same for reinforcement, right? The dog determines what's reinforcing. And some of the things we're talking about, okay, so the dog decides squirrels are reinforcing. We need to help them change their mind and show them that what we have to offer is more valuable. And maybe sometimes we have to increase the value of our reward. Okay, sound can be very distracting. This is Bogey, and Bogey's going to show us how distracting sound can be.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Bogs. Alert.
No.
Finish. Good try, Bubs. Let's go.
Bogey tried. Okay, so along sound, I found this fascinating. I read a book and it was about the ocean and sound and how it affects wildlife. And there was a study that they did. It had to do with motorboat noise. And there is a community of wrasse in the ocean. It escapes me the location and everything, but that's not important. The wrasse are the fish that like to clean the dead scales off of sea mammals and other large fish. They are, kind of like little nursemaids. They take care of their clients. And they usually are pretty good about doing their job, and they don't take extra nibbles very often. And if they do take an extra nibble of healthy flesh, the client will correct them. The client will tell them, knock it off, and then the wrasse behaves again. When they did this study and the motorboats got loud and close, the wrasse cheated more, and their clients did not correct them as much because both species were distracted and disturbed by the noise. So if wildlife is affected by it, why would our domestic animals be any different, right? Okay, so we have talked about a lot of distractions. We've talked about the way that the world vies for your dog's attention. So now we move into what can we do about it? Are there things that we can do? And I suggest that we need a toolbox. We need to have a lot of tools in our toolbox so that if one thing doesn't work, we have something else that we can pull out. And reconnection is the goal. It's not to correct the dog, tell them that they're naughty and they need to get to work. It's more, come back to me, come back to the game that we're playing together to reconnect with me and the target odor so that I can reward you, so that you can have fun doing that. I focus on Lima, least invasive, minimally aversive, when I come up with my tools. You only want to do as much as you need to do to get them back in the game, okay? And we're going to look at each one of these individually with some videos, but some of the ones that I have come up with working with my students is verbal, touch, treats, tricks, and sometimes ending the game. Okay. So remember, I said reconnection is the key. Your dog is not playing, so we're not distracting him because he's already distracted. We are trying to get him to come back to the game. So you're redirecting them away from their distraction. You're not distracting them from searching. And I think there's a big difference there. It's redirection, reconnection. Okay, so in this picture, I realized the guy's pointing at something, but it was the best I could find. This dog, you can tell, is listening to him. He's using some verbal to try and get his dog's attention, or in this case, draw his dog's attention to something. But the dog's listening, but not connected. The dog is still completely invested in that distraction. And if he were to release his dog right now, the dog most likely will just go right back to what they were invested in before you tried to redirect them. Now you have a connection. The dog's eyes are on you. You can see your dog's eyes. They're not swiveling back and forth between you and the distraction. I'm sure you've all seen your dogs do that. You're trying to talk to your dog, you're trying to get their attention, and they'll give it to you for a nanosecond, and then they're right back to what they wanted to do anyways. And now there's a greater likelihood that your dog's actually going to go back to work. Okay, when I say verbal, it's the kissy noises. It could be saying their name in a pleasant way. It could be a reminder, that's not what we're doing right now. Or remember, find it. Those are the different ways that I use the interrupters, and they're pleasant. They're not a correction. They're usually used to say, hey, remember me? We were doing this together. Okay, so this is Turkish and Andrea working an NW1 exterior. And there's a lot of grass for this little Basenji boy. And Andrea, hopefully you'll be able to hear and at least notice that she is pleasantly interrupting him.
Dog 17.
So right off the bat, you've got lots of grass. Remember, we saw Gidget and Rosanna trying to work through a lot of grass that was distracting as well. She's gonna gets kind of glued here. And this is where she says, come on, let's go. Let's go. And because of her tone, that pleasant, let's go, he's not being corrected, he's just being encouraged. And he goes right to the hide, and she calls it, and she gets a yes. So she could have just left him to that, and it might have worked out, or he might have forgotten completely what it was that he was supposed to be doing. Just like when you send a child to their room and they're supposed to be cleaning, and they get started, and then they find a toy that they absolutely love, and they start playing with their toy. And if you don't go in there and check on them and see they're playing with that toy, pretty soon 20 minutes or half hour's gone by, and all they've done is played with the toy, and their room is still a mess, right? So that's the way I look at it. If we leave our dogs distracted, they are dogs, and they don't usually all of a sudden go, oh, that's right, I was supposed to be sniffing for odor, and get back to it. So sometimes just a verbal pleasant interrupter works. And I just love this picture of all these hounds. And just to remind you, we just watched a hound, and we're going to watch another hound do some searching, and they are truly being their very nature. Okay, this is going to be Mike McManus and Catfish. And I want you to really focus on how he uses his verbal interrupters. And also when Cat gets to his hides, I think Michael had a brilliant strategy. I don't know if he always does this, but in this video is a brilliant strategy is he does not wait for a look. He just calls the alert to keep the dog in the game and gets his reinforcement quickly when he's doing exactly what Michael asked him to do.
There's 2 hides. You have 3 minutes.
Excellent. 2 hides, 3 minutes.
So see it from Catfish's perspective. He uses them for hunting, and there's a whole bunch of trees.
Hello.
And a whole bunch of
Are
trees.
you ready?
And then there's some
You ready, buddy?
vehicles.
Hey, Catfish, here.
That is committed.
Yes, good
He
boy.
calls
Ready?
his name, gives
There's
him a
nothing out
treat,
there for you. Ready?
reminds
Search.
him that we're going to do searching. Well, I held it together for half a
Search.
second. Every time he comes around a vehicle, it's like, oh, look, there's trees are still there.
It says there's definitely a pheasant out in the woods.
And if you couldn't hear that, Mike says, yep, he definitely thinks there's a pheasant out in those woods.
Alert! Yes,
He
good boy!
nailed it.
Yes,
And
what
Mike
a good boy!
Did not wait
Yes,
for him to look
what
back.
a good boy!
And then he copiously
Yes, good
rewards.
job! Search.
Lots and lots of reward. Now he's distracted by something on the ground. People. Something on the ground again. Oh, wait a second.
Alert! Finish! Yes, good boy!
And again.
Yes, good boy!
Mike doesn't wait.
What a
for
good
look.
boy!
He doesn't he doesn't dilly-dally with that, because if a dog's already has something else vying for their attention, if we hold to that criteria, even in a competition, hold to that criteria, you must look at me. Cat might say, hey, I'm going to go back and look for some pheasant some more. Okay. Then we have Callie, and I believe Callie is non-seeing, and she is going to be distracted by a floor that tastes really good. And I want you to watch how I'm sorry, her name is escaping me. It's in this last slide. I believe it's Rebecca. Rebecca does a great job of redirecting her. So she's starting to pay attention to the floor. She's sniffing. And Rebecca's giving her some time. And now we're going to start licking it. We found something really, really interesting. And so she's calling her name. She's trying, and then she snaps her fingers and redirects her. And she gets a high. And then she goes on to find another hide very nicely. Hey, so then I have a video that shows some touch. Now, when I say touch, it could just be I have a student has a Basenji. It's the brother to mine, and he does a friendly, quick slap. It's not to hurt the dog. It's not even, doesn't even make contact with him. Sometimes he just kind of swipes his hand along his flank, and that causes Enzo to go, oh, that's right. I'm not supposed to be sniffing that. I need to get back to work. Here we have Jinx and Joyce, and Jinx has a sudden noise that really distracts her. And I think that this is an ingenious way of dealing with this.
Hey,
So she finds a hide fairly quickly.
alert.
Yes.
Good girl. Search.
I just love her little body. She goes across the floor. And she's going to work another hide.
Alert.
Yes.
Good girl. Search.
I shake off. And that might have been the pressure of the volunteer in the corner. So she's starting to work something here. You can see her elevating. She's elevating on this side of the counter too. And then someone
You're
dropped
okay.
something.
You're okay.
And for those of you, if you can't
That's
hear,
all right.
Joyce says, you're okay.
It's just
You're okay. And then she picks her up and puts her on the counter. I think
Search.
this is kind of ingenious. And then she recues her to search. And she brings her head up. She looks at her. She's like, let's try this again.
alert.
Yes.
Finish.
Good job, Joyce. I'll tell you what.
I love it. Okay, and then this is going to be another example of touch. This is Mike, sorry, Dave, Dave and Java. And this is a blank area. And there, what he startles over is a lizard, apparently. Dave told me that it was a lizard. Researching. And you can see his little head bobs up and down, and now he runs. He's just like, no, I can't do that. And so Dave just kind of pats him, brings him out here, maybe to alleviate a little bit of He's like, no, I don't really want to go back in there. And so then Dave's going to rub him up, talk to him, pet him. He gets a shake off, which is showing us that alleviated some of the stress and tension. And then they're going to back to searching. And there isn't anything for them to find in there. Okay. And then we move to getting their attention back through treats. And I'm sure there's a lot of varying opinions. What is it that you're actually rewarding for when you use food? Because this is a sport and you are allowed to treat them, I think sometimes for certain dogs, it is a valuable tool that you can remind them. It's actually, I see it as a reminder. This is what you're working for. And if you do what I'm asking you to do and you find your hide, then this is what you'll get. You'll get more of it, okay? In this video, you're gonna see Tayo become immediately distracted by a sudden barking of a dog. And then they're gonna search for a long time. Janice is gonna give him a cookie and he's immediately gonna go and find the hide that he's been by multiple times. The dog just barked, and you can see Tayo's reaction.
Ready?
Says, yeah, I'm ready to go find that dog. So he's not searching. And bless Janice for her patience here. She patiently walks with him. He's not searching. Tayo just has not been able to give up on what distracted him to begin with. You can see his head keeps orienting towards the sound. They go around, they're going to go over, and the hide is on that vehicle. And he just walked right past it with no recognizable change of behavior. So I'm going to advance it. So as you can see, I'm going to go around, and there's that truck with the paw on it is where the hide is. As she comes around here, she's going to reach into her treat pouch. She just gave him a treat. Now watch what happens.
30 seconds. Alert. Yes.
And he nails the hide. And he had been around that truck at least 3 times. So some people would say, what are they being rewarded for? And I suggest that she showed him what it was worth to him if he found it. And then I don't have any videos for the tricks or reset behaviors, but I think this can be a valuable tool too. If it's something that is a simple behavior, something that you can do quickly, like a paw touch, a nose touch, can you spin? Can you bow? Can you do any of those things quickly to reset them? I'm not looking for obedience. I don't want them to sit and stay and do all that stuff. I'm simply trying to re-engage them into the search so that we can do it as a team, because it's supposed to be a team sport, okay? You definitely want to practice this real quick reset. It's like touch, find it. That's how fast I would do it if I was going to use this as a tool. Or spin, find it. So it is real quick and it is a part of our practice. And this isn't something that I encourage you to do for the very first time in a trial, for sure. Okay, so the last one, and this is, it's a tool. Keep that in mind. It's not for every dog, and we're going to discuss that. But you've tried your pleasant interrupter. You have tried your treats. You have tried touching them. You have tried a bow and a nose touch, and you just, those things aren't working. So is it time to end the game? And in this video, we're going to watch Chili decide to play a different game. And there's a discussion that goes on between the two people, and I'll kind of speak over it for you in case you can't hear. But let's watch Linda and Chili do an exterior search with some heavy duty distraction.
Yep.
So she finds her first hide pretty quick.
Good girl. Your dog is so good.
Yeah, she's amazing for how long she's been doing this.
Going out of the bloom, coming back into it. You can tell she's in odor. You can see it's in the crook of that
She knows there's a second one.
little tree to her
She
left.
doesn't know where it is, but she knows there's a second one.
Well, it's easier for her parents, so she knows there's a cookie there.
Yeah, but still searching, you know.
And she's in the game at this point. She's sniffing. She's working her hides. And all of a sudden, she gets out here and she is going to notice a squirrel. There it goes. Total shift in the dog's behavior. We've got barking,
So do you stop now?
chasing. And Dave asked a question.
Too bad.
Should you stop
You
now?
decide to play a different game you don't get to finish, or do you give her a jackpot for switching back to our game?
Do you end the game, or do you have her wait until she comes back into the game
To decide to play.
and then you jackpot her
No,
when she
she's
finds
searching
it?
now. Oh, she's gonna get it too.
And she gets it. So she came back into the game all by herself.
I'm not sure I give her a jackpot. I might just
And
play
Dave
her like normal.
says, I don't know if I would jackpot
I'm
her
not sure what you're rewarding, you know?
because I'm
It's
not
really
sure
complicated.
what you're rewarding and that it's complicated. And there's a lot of thought behind that.
I was about to give up.
Again, what are you rewarding? It's important that this is a discussion you have about your dog. And your instructor can be a big help if they know your dog as well as you do, whether that is something that you would consider. I think we need to go back to the slide with the hounds and the two videos with the two hounds, the sight hound and the scent hound, Turkish and catfish. Those dogs are from a different cloth genetically, and I'm not sure that timeout would be something that I would recommend for those dogs, but it works great for some dogs. In some ways, it can just help to decompress and give them a chance to think, and then they come back into the search. Sometimes it can tap into jealousy and motivate some dogs, and it has to be appropriate for that dog. Why was the dog put up in the first place? Were they fearful? Were they brand new at odor and they were trying to figure it out? Then timeout is not appropriate. I would never give a dog a timeout for fear, I would rethink that. And because when I say timeout, it really is, it's being put up from the search. It's like taking a sheepdog away from the sheep because they're biting them or they're chasing them. Okay. It's typically not my first tool, probably never my first tool. And your emotions really need to stay in check. You need to just simply put the dog away. It's without comment. It's not slamming the crate door. I kiddingly tell my students if they want to emote, they need to put their dog away very respectfully, and then they can go someplace else far away and they can emote. Okay. And it's certainly not a tool for every dog. We want to remember Lima again, least invasive, minimally aversive. Okay. And is a timeout aversive? Yep, probably. But if you have to nag and cajole and remind your dog that that's not what we're doing right now, you're supposed to be playing with me, not playing with you is aversive to you as well. And sometimes a timeout just gives them time to think about it. And then you can bring them out and pleasantly start them again. But again, it's a tool. And you notice it's at the very bottom of my list. It's not something that I would use as a go-to, but it does work for some dogs. And some dogs, after they've had a lot of training, they need to be reminded that there are some rules. Unless you're just simply doing this for enrichment, where it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether dogs find things timely and whether they're totally engaged in the game or not. You're just doing it for enrichment. Then, I'm all for it. Just let them do and be a dog. Okay, so in summary, dogs are individuals, and so their distractions are definitely individualistic. We want to recognize that that's a distraction behavior versus searching. We want to utilize training exercises so that we can grow our observational skills and also build the resiliency in our dog that they need to overcome distractions so they can stay in the game. Deciding if you should do something or let it play out is a case-to-case basis. Why is the dog distracted? What are they distracted by? Have they been trained through those distractions, or is this something they've never seen before in their life? Like a herd of elephants coming through, okay? And to gather tools that'll work for you and your dog and practice them in training. And regularly evaluate your team and its training. And I want to thank all the teams that let me use their videos. Whenever people let you use their videos for a presentation, they're putting themselves out there. And I greatly appreciate that they gave me the chance to do that. And that brings us to questions.
Right now, we do not have any questions, so I'll give them a couple of minutes to put any questions in the Q&A. Great webinar, lots of great information. And I think the timeout sometimes can be helpful too for the handler, right?
Yes, good point.
Handler needs to, okay, calm down, let's see, do we need to make any adjustments maybe
Right.
to search as well, right? So,
Exactly.
do you have any insights about dogs that have OCD behaviors or that really cannot be refocused? So say, for example, there's a grassy area and all the dog wants to do, even though it's a good searcher, usually the dog just wants to eat grass and eat grass and eat grass, and the person cannot refocus.
So is this just a one-off occurrence, or is this something that happens all the time?
Yeah, that's something. I mean, this could be the same thing like a squirrel and the dog just cannot refocus because the dog has had, previous success chasing squirrels and
Yeah, and I think whenever I see a dog obsessively eating grass or obsessively sniffing a floor, I question their mental state of mind. Those are usually displacement behaviors. And so it is telling me that there is something going on. And if pleasant interrupters aren't going to help, redirecting, petting, trying to get them to do a shake off and start the search again, I would quit the search personally, because if it is that obsessive, there's a reason why the animal's doing it. And if you don't work with the animal regularly, it's hard to tell. I know that if my dogs obsessively eat grass like that, they're telling me that they're not happy. There is something going on, and I would stop. I would just say, thank you very much. We're gonna leave.
Okay. Julie has a question. You said not to give a timeout for fear. Is there a point, though, where the dog is clearly too anxious and should be put up?
So it's a great question, and I want to separate. Ending a search for a fearful dog is a great idea most of the time. It really is. But when I say time out, without using the word punishment, timeouts are just like with a child, a 2-year-old. They threw their food on the floor and you ask them to clean it up and they're not. So then they need to go have a timeout. They need to go think about their behavior. And so, yes, pleasantly ending a search for a fearful dog, I do that all the time if I have to. But when I say timeout, it's a tool that I say, you no longer get to play the game. And that's not what you're doing with a fearful dog. You're saying, I'm going to give you some relief. I'm going to let you calm down, de-stress, and then I'm going to let you start again. Sometimes the dogs that take a timeout don't get to come back into the search.
Great. Okay, Rachel asked, for exteriors, what about open box pairing and gradually closing boxes or other objects with paired odor in the environment to lower the distraction level and increase obedience to odor?
Okay, is this for distractions out in the environment, or is it purposefully placed distractions in the containers?
That is a good question. Rachel, if you could answer that, that would be great. Distracting environment, she says.
Okay, distracting environments. Yeah, I always love going back to open boxes with a paired tin hide, because then you're basically taking the search out of it. You're taking the complication of working through scent problems. And you're saying there is odor there for you. It's even paired. Can you work through the distracting environment? And start with low level, like a small patch of grass off to the side of a sidewalk with your row of boxes, then move to actually working in the grass, but doing it systematically so the dog can succeed.
Great. And one more question, how to introduce toys that would be left out, like in AKC? I started with putting the toy in containers, but how would you progress to leaving it out? My dog is normally not a toy dog.
Okay, so when I do any kind of systematic or proofing, I go to open containers and I have a paired tin hide in an open box. And the distractor goes after, so it can be the toy, it can be food, it doesn't matter. And I put them in a container to begin with. They're the plastic Ziploc containers, bigger ones for tennis balls and other like Kongs and stuff like that. And I put it after. So the first question I'm asking the dog, can you get to odor first? Can you get to this paired odor? And then if they're successful, I peel them off. I don't let the handler continue searching the row, because then we're going to move the distractor forward. And when you move it forward, if the dog shows any more than the slightest sniff, maybe a little tiny lick, I take it away. Again, there's no emotions. You're not grabbing it away and saying, no, you can't have this. You simply pick it up. It's not available to you. When they go to the hide, you copiously reward them. You reward them more than you believe it's worth. Okay. And I keep doing that until we build them up to their kryptonite. Again, if your dog's kryptonite is a tennis ball, I'm not going to start with a tennis ball. I'm going to start with something that they don't care that much about, but it's still similar. And it's after the odor, then it's before the odor. And I usually give them a couple boxes that are empty to begin with so they can get their nose in the game. And I take it away. If the dog has any resource guarding issues whatsoever, the handler takes it away. Okay. And we just hold it and they continue searching. And then you could put a container out in the floor setting. And again, if the dog shows undue interest, it just goes away. In order to work to that level of distraction that I showed you in the videos and the picture, I was taking things away. I was just picking them up. I was interrupting. And the dogs got to the point where they're like, if I ignore these things, I get rewarded. So I would do the same thing with a toy, bag of treats, whatever, because I know in AKC, it can be a lot of different visual, auditory distractions. So just work them through that whole process a little bit at a time so that they learn that if it's out on the floor, I don't get to play with it.
That was our last question.
Sweet.
Yep, perfect timing too. So thank you so much, Christina, for being here today and presenting this wonderful webinar. And thanks everybody who is here live today. As I said, we will make the recording available to